Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and wherever you are, welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I am your he. You're glad to here to tell you a story. 17 seconds in, don't believe a word I said. And every day and every way, you take the piece of the earth and make it stronger. So, the war in Ukraine ain't ending anytime soon. Pretty much, Russians only have one thing they can do, and that is obliterate everything in Ukraine, right? And I would say the way it's set up, Ukrainian folk won't have any appreciation of their situation until it's already too late. So, as this guy, Peter, I keep going to him, he's my go to guy. This, okay. So our weather, all the rest is. So ask Peter. Peter Zion, I think. Hmm.
AG1 is so much more than a green spot. In one single scoop, it delivers daily multivitamins. From Drop Gulch. A little bit ago, I was stuck at an airport for a few hours and I asked for video ideas. So we're going to do a whole series on basically what's an Ask Peter list. The first two questions are interrelated, so it's going to kick us off with a two-parter here. Question number one was, is it likely for Putin to be disappeared or assassinated or die, and what effect would that have on the war? And then second, can we get an update on Russia's demographic situation? So you have to start by looking why the Russians are in this war at the moment. Russian territory, it's flat, it's open, it's difficult to defend, but where the Russians have shown that if you can expand beyond the flats and reach a series of geographical funnel points, where on either side you've got barriers you can't run a tank through, and in the middle you've got a flat area that you can concentrate troops on, block the access points, plug the gaps, then you can defend your lands, possibly. The Soviets achieved this at the end of World War II, and they held it till 1992. And when the Soviet system collapsed completely, the Russians lost control of most of those access points, all but two, actually. And so everything the Kremlin has been doing since 1992, not Putin, the Kremlin, this predates him, has been about reestablishing positions on or near those blocking points. This is the Transnistria occupation, this is the Georgian War, obviously Crimea, the Kazakh intervention, being involved in the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. All of this is towards the same goal of plugging those gaps. So that's kind of piece one. Piece two is demographic. Now, for those of you guys who have been watching for a while, you know that Russia has among the world's worst demographics. To argue it used to be the worst until the Ukraine war, unfortunately, pushed Ukraine into a worse position. And then Chinese data changes mean that China's probably actually been worse for Russia for over a decade at this point. But anyway, there's these big gouges out of the side of the Russian demographic pyramid that represent periods of huge trauma in Russia's past. In some cases, that is a war. The world wars were obvious. In another spot, it's the effect of collectivization or the mismanagement of Khrushchev and especially Brezhnev. But the biggest one of all, sorry, it's a little muddy today. The biggest one of all by far is the post-Soviet collapse in the 1990s when the death rate doubled and the birth rate halved. Now that's kind of the background for those of you. And if the Russians were ever going to use on my war and the people fleeing, they've already lost over 1 million of them. I don't mean to say that this would do the work. So the bulk of the heavy engineering that's been done in north central Siberia, for example, or Arctic operations, training is a terminal decline. You put that together, and the entire cadre that are a survivor of that intelligence services system that were educated before 1986, that's less than 130 people now. simple mortality is wiping away the capacity of the Russian government to function, even at the top, maybe especially at the top levels. Now, what does this have to do with an off-ramp for Russians? Well, they see this war as existential. They believe if they cannot get control of those geographic gaps soon, they will lose the capacity to try. And it doesn't matter what happens 1 decade, 2 decades, 5 decades from now, Russia will not have even theoretical capacity to fight off any future aggressor, no matter where it comes from. And in that, they are 100% right. It doesn't matter that no one's even considering an invasion right now. They're planning for forever. And this is their last chance. And everyone who is in that 130 people see the world through the same lens. They were all part of the clique that threw the coup. They were all part of Putin's inner circle. And Putin has had 23 years now to weed out anyone who might have a different view or be a challenge to him personally. So even if he were to accidentally duct tape himself to a lawn chair and go swimming, you then have the other 129 basically trying to figure out how to carry the general vision because they all believe it because it's, true. If there is going to be a end of this war because of politics in Moscow, what it would probably take the form of is the Ukrainians so decisively defeat the Russian military, and that its humiliation isn't global, it's local, that everyone in Moscow can see it. And if that happens, the odds of having a general uprising, not across Russia, just in Moscow, go up dramatically. Now, keep in mind, for it to get to that point, the rest of Russia has probably already slipped the reins to a degree. Russia is held together by occupation, intelligence penetration, and fear. And if the military is shown to be toothless, or at least incompetent, then there will probably be a number of rebellions throughout the Russian system already. What happens in Moscow is what matters. And if you do have a rebellion there, like you did after the Russo-Japanese War in 2005 when the Russians were humiliated, or like the end of World War I where they're just gutted, then you have people march on the Kremlin and Putin is removed along with his clique. Now, that doesn't mean that the war ends. Even Navalny, the guy who's campaigning for democracy in Russia, he's made it pretty clear that while he abhors the general incompetence and brutality of the Russian forces, he's broadly okay with the war. He sees Ukraine as his territory. So even a democratic Russia could very much choose to continue to prosecute the conflict. But if we do have a catastrophic military defeat and we do have the top of the government fall, it is going to take years for any post-Putin government to find its feet. And in that time, Russia's economic situation will deteriorate further, and their demographic situation will be completely irrecoverable. So if there is a peaceful way for this to end, that's roughly how it's going to go. Oh, one more thing I forgot. The idea of an off-ramp for Putin and the Russian government. Is there a way that this war can end without either side being completely defeated? And the answer is flat no. At this point, Russia has paid the price for a major war, but got none of the benefits, and it's actually in a worse strategic position than it was when it started. So the Russians are all in. In addition, any meaningful peace would have to require a degree of reparations and admittance of guilt. And the entire Russian upper leadership could be implicated very easily. That's one of the downsides of having a secure system where you've purged all possible pretenders to the throne, is that everything kind of stops with you. We have literally thousands of documented cases of war crimes. This isn't like the Yugoslav war. The Russians celebrated it. In fact, you've got cabinet ministers celebrating the kidnapping of children or the execution of civilians. So the guilt is not in doubt. So even if the world was willing, even if Ukraine was willing to settle for some sort of temporary peace without any sort of reckoning, the Russians would never be able to get the investment that they had pre-war back. And at this point, because of the demographic decay and the physical losses of the war, that is a blow from which the Russian system wouldn't recover. So Putin and the rest are in this to the end. The question is the end something that happens in the next few years, the next few decades? But it'll certainly be this century. All right. That's it for round one. See you guys soon for the next one.
Using automotive plastic electroplating refurbishment agents can easily help you restore the original gloss and color of automotive plastic electroplating parts, making your car look brand new.
Brand new.
This product adopts the most advanced technology and special ingredients, which can deeply clean and repair plastic electroplating surfaces. Not only can it remove stains and scratches, but it
Hey everybody, Peter Zine here, coming to you from cloudy Colorado. Today we're going to talk about this horrible smoke that is hitting most of the country. Basically, if you are east of the Front Range, you're experiencing it in some way, with particularly dense clusters in places like the American Northeast. I hate to say it, folks, but this is just going to be the beginning of a very, very, very long summer of low air quality. We've got three things happening at the same time which have never happened together before. The first, which is something that happens every few years, is we've got forest fires in northern Alberta and northeastern British Columbia, which is generating a significant amount of smoke that is currently hitting the Great Plains and the Midwest. Second, and this is something that happens very rarely, we're getting extensive fires in both Quebec and in Canada's maritime provinces, which is generating most of the smoke that is hitting the American Northeast. And then third, something we get every year, is we're at that part of the season where the Mexicans are doing a slash and burn preparation for certain types of fields. So we've got more smoke coming up from the south, which is primarily hitting Texas right now. Anyway, all three of these are big enough that they had the potential to have a huge swath of coverage for the continent. And in a lot of cases, we're seeing overlapping layers. Now, smoke and fires do not automatically translate into poor air quality because it really matters what the elevation is. Oftentimes, a few days after the smoke leaves the source of the fire, it drifts up, and when it does that, it still makes the skies kind of crappy, but you're not dealing with those PMI issues. Because we've got three different sources and three different geographies, we're getting smoke at multiple elevations, which is making it more of a problem. So really all we're waiting now for is for the Californians to have smoke, but luckily they have had the wettest year on record so far. So the chances of me going backpacking in Yosemite this year are very low. There's still 40 feet of snow on the ground at high elevation. And so they're probably going to have a relatively wet and therefore not fire-filled summer. For those of you who are concerned about climate change, is that part of this? I'm going to have to say yes, for the simple reason that it's only June. And the Albertan and the Quebec fires, started in May. We've never had wildfires on this scale this early in the season, which means barring some really atypical summer precipitation in the Great White North, we're going to be dealing with this smoke and these fires.
Yep, that's why I got a hold of him. Right? Whether he's right or wrong, he has a good perspective. Now, this is my other two guys.
finally find that thing that you've always wanted, Parkman.com.
No more bulls,
stack it on
please.
there.
Listen, you're a great guy, but you're not big. There can't be a more humiliating thing for a guy to mind state.
Well, there was a great soldier in British history known as the Duke of Wellington.
Finding Joy.
And one of his, he's known for his pithy sayings. And one of them was, never give advice to anybody unless you're in a position to see that they carry it out. And so I don't think I'll give advice to anybody on what to do or not to do with their minds.
Mark. Why?
Not too sure I've ever done anything much with my mind, really. I think the mind tends to run rings around us. And most people, of course, are fascinated by their minds. They love their minds. The last thing they want to do is they may have some sort of woolly notion in their head of getting beyond the mind, but it's not usually anything very clear. You might be worse off without it, so I wouldn't be in a hurry to go beyond your mind. But I tell you, that's something very simple. Often I think one of the most useful practices anybody can do is just look out of the window Now it's early evening on a late spring day, a sort of rather cloudy sunshine, light coming down on the trees of the distant hillside. As I look at it, it's a well-loved view. There's a bird flying across there. Yes, I love to just look at the sky, just go into the sky. Where does the sky end? Well, there are a few wispy clouds about, and beyond that, there's light coming through. Light.
John Butler is this guy's
And I
name.
look at something like that, and I thought, if I
He's still a
ask
spring
myself,
chicken
am I
compared to
thinking?
this guy.
The answer is no. My mind's completely quiet.
I'm trying to
Does
get
that
there,
mean
John.
that I've gone beyond mind? Probably does. Who knows? Certainly the mind is quiet, if that's an indication.
Yep, my mind.
I find it very
Clifton
restful.
is quiet, but sometimes
Really perfect meditation, really. I don't know if anything better, just looking out the window. So if anybody asks for advice, I'd say, look out the window.
Look out the window, guys. What's going on? So, buckle up. You should have been buckled up. As soon as you get in the car, buckle up, right? So you should have been buckled up already. I don't know what to tell you guys. There's so many balls in the air with so many different people with so many different agendas. Again, Donald Trump and our presidential elections. I mean, again, we have the best legislators money can buy. Everyone from the U.S. president all the way down to your dog catcher is on the take, right? And not only on the take, has blackmail that they can be threatened with. So there's nobody watching your back except for conscious intent, unconditional love of God. I am, meaning when you are connected to God's unconditional love, you don't have to worry. Now I am, you are, we all are, with the Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. That's conscious intent, unconditional forgiveness. I am Jesus Christ. Got it? So if you use those two mantras daily when things go awry, you'll be okay. But we're going to have a red flag, alien invasion. Right? I mean, aliens we are the aliens, right? This is, did you ever read the book or see the movie Childhood's End? I mean, that's where we are. In the Bible it says, when I was a child, I did childish things. When I was adolescent, I did adolescent things. When I was a young adult, I was trying to be an adult. When I got older, I had the opportunity to be responsible. I no longer do childish things, right? But look around you. Look at your parents, right? Look at the politicians. Look at your preachers. Look at the people on television, on social media. How many of them are responsible? I don't think so. So, what time is it? How much juice do I have left? I'll be here for a few minutes. So, anybody wants to say, hey, ask a question, that'd be nice. It'd be nice to have a Hmm?
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In Sudan, a regional governor from Darfur was assassinated Wednesday after he publicly blamed the paramilitary rapid support forces and allied Arab militias for the genocide of civilians. West Darfur State Governor Hamis Abahar was abducted and killed hours after making the remarks in a TV interview. Reuters reports 2 government sources said the RSF was responsible for the killing. On Wednesday, the International Organization for Migration said fighting between rival military factions in Sudan has now displaced more than 2 million people from their...
And don't you understand that the two warring factions are the same faction? They want to get rid of their population so they can keep all the oil, gold, iridium, titanium, water, geopolitical location, right? That's what this is about. You know, the army has weapons. We've given them, the Russians give them, the French have given them. So they have fighter planes, jet planes, and cluster bombs and anti-personnel, and the rapid, militia guys. They're hiding in populated areas, so the army will destroy all of the population, and the rapid response militia will basically do the on ground. When the people peek out that they've been bombed and napalmed, and they try to run out, that's when the militias will kill them and rape them and torture them. And this is all being done on the behest of other entities, folks higher on the food chain. Virtually there are 18 different nation states that want the resources and the geopolitical location of Sudan. So the only way this can stop is that the general population of the world, if everyone stopped buying stuff and stopped driving their car, like I do. I go out and about away from the deep green 4 times a week, right? Like right now, I'm going to do about 10 different things, not just one, but 10 different things. I've already done 3. This is the 4th talking to you. And where and what are you going to do about it? And what can I do? I can't. Well, stop consuming. Stop driving your car. Stop using the internet, right? Turn off the electricity. Anyway, so that's what I got to say to you guys, right? So I'm gonna click off here now. I'd love some comments, on the comment thing over here. A couple of you left something nice, and you guys can see it. And come on, next time I go on, let's have a real chat. Come on. And I'd love something on my PayPal, and you can get a hold of me at my email, the dudeawake42@gmail. 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 All small case, all one thing. Okay? Okie doke.